Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're back in War Thunder looking at an older devblog, the Spähpanzer Ru, the fastest on the land. It's a German light tank which is going to be premium, probably tier 4 in the game. And the reason why it's taken me quite a long time to do this video is because I can't really find a lot about this tank. There seems to be approximately 2 prototypes made. The reason why it was made was because at the time, around the time that the Leopard 1 was being made and produced and trying to work out how it was going to be on the battlefield, basically in development, the Germans wanted to find a replacement for the Walker Bulldog, the M41, and what they wanted was basically a cheap tank with not a lot of armor, which could be used for armed reconnaissance, but could also have a gun that could deal with Soviet armor, just in case something broke out. Because obviously after World War II, you had the splitting up of Germany, and there were tensions in the mid-1900s because of that. So what ended up happening was, because the Leopard 1 was produced, there was seen to be no need for the Ru-251, or basically it got beaten out in the race for what Germany wanted and was seen as void of all use. So therefore it was never produced, which is why only 1 or 2 prototypes were made, which makes it a perfect candidate for being premium in Gaijin's eyes. But that's really the only information I can find on it. Even on the Tanks Encyclopedia website, which is generally one I like going to, or Military Factory, they even have a paragraph saying, "So far no exhaustive nor reliable information on this model has been found on the web. Whoever can access the classified archives of the Bundeswehr or the Deutsche Panzer Museum in Munster and provide us additional information is warmly welcomed." It's as simple as that. So what we know is very bare bones about this vehicle, but we know most of the general stuff, such as how thick its armor was, what gun it had mounted on it, and right now, the gun that is mounted on it is actually already present in game. You have the Hanomag Henschel JPZ-45, the last tank destroyer in the German line. It sports a 90mm BK-90, and that's basically what this new light tank will have. It will have APCR, Heat FS, and HE. So basically it has Heat FS, because that's all people use on it. Also, what is kind of interesting is every picture I found of this thing, apart from ones such as in the actual museum itself, it has a box very similar to what you find on the Type 74 on it, which I believe is an infrared sight box. I'm not exactly sure, so please correct me if I'm wrong, but if you see the Type 74 in-game, it has a huge box on the front of it. And so, it seems so did the Ru-251 at the time, but I don't see it present for the model that's going to be put in-game. So what are we dealing with? We're dealing with a light tank with basically no armor, which may actually struggle because of the new hull break mechanic, but it sports a wonderful gun with Heat FS, which is going to be around tier 4. Another thing which is massively on its side is the fact that it's incredibly quick and small. It is quite a small tank. If you actually look at its armor profile and look at the size of it, it's very similar to, once again, that JPZ-45, which is very low to the ground and sometimes quite hard to see. It's basically a turreted version of it, with a bit more speed. So it's slightly taller, but compared to the monstrosities that you have in Tier 4 when it comes to Germany, the Tiger II, the Panther, this thing is going to be very hard to see. So where is this going to fit in the game? Well, it has a good gun, it has really good speed, and it doesn't have a lot of armor. But generally around the tier that it's going to sit at, armor doesn't really make a difference. There are a few tanks where it does slightly make a difference, such as the Tiger II, the T-34 that's coming into game, the T-29, the Tiger II SLAR, IS-6, which is going to be around this BR, But apart from that, it doesn't really matter, because as this 90mm shows, a lot of tanks have heat FS, which if we look at the heat FS on the JPZ45, which is exactly what this thing is going to have, it's going to have pen up to 320, and APCR which pen's 271. So it's going to shred most things it's going to come up against. So armor becomes much more negligible. So the question is, where do we put this in the tree? Now, since I talked about before in a few other videos, there hasn't been a 7.0 tank when it comes to premiums, but somebody corrected me, and I'm sorry for forgetting your name. I could I could have a look. I'll leave an annotation in the video for you. But in arcade, in Tank Arcade, the M46 Tiger sits at 7.0. And it's basically a copy of the M46, just with some nice paint on it. But in realistic, the M46 is sat at 6.7. So we'll sit at that 6.7 barrier right now for premium vehicles. So let's say this thing gets in at 6.7. What's your classic lineup for Germany at 6.7? Well, since the Panther 2's been changed, since the Kugelblitz has been changed, and the Kolian, your classic lineup would be something like a Tiger 2 / Tiger 2 SLA, depending on if you have it, some variant of the Panther, either A, G, or F, and then the Kolian. And then the Panther gets replaced by a Ferdinand or a Jagdpanther, or you have a Tiger 2 SLA and a Tiger 2H if you feel like it. So where does this fit in? Well, I think it fits in, you replace the Panther with it. I think you put it in that medium tank slot. You don't put it in the AA slot, because this tank is going to basically be a better Panther in a way. Panthers can't generally take hits, especially at 6.7. The Panther 2 could, but the awesome thing about the Panther 2 was not the fact that it could take a hit, it was the fact that it sported that 88mm KW K43 and that it was quick. Well, now we have a light tank version with a 90mm that is incredibly quick, up to 80 kilometers an hour. So if it sits at 6.7, then you put it in your lineup in place of the Panther. You obviously get the premium bonus too. I mean, imagine, you have the Tiger 2 SLA, you have this new vehicle, and then you have something like a Kolian, just in case something goes wrong. So there you go, that's your lineup for 6.7. Now, if they branch out and put it at 7.0, which is highly likely as well, the JPZ45 right now sits at 7.3. It's not a vehicle I see a lot, just because there are just much better options. People generally go for the Leopards, and the Tiger 2 105 isn't really looked at as an amazing tank. So building a lineup at 7.0, even though it might look really nice for the Germans, you can definitely struggle with it. So the Tiger 2 105, you have to basically wait until you get that second APC-BC shell, which has 247mm of penetration, to start banging rounds into big tanks, which you do see around this BR. But it's 7.0 now. Well, let's say it's at 7.0. Your lineup is Kugel, Panther 2, 105 Tiger 2. If that's one, if you want to go for a full 7.0 lineup, that's what you would do. You could put in the Jagd Tiger in place of the Tiger 2 105, but you're going to have that Panther 2 in there. So if we put this thing at 7.0, it becomes a bit more dodgy whether we want to put it in or not. Because you would have to put it in place of either a Jagd Tiger, Panther 2, and 105 Tiger 2. So it comes much more down to playstyle instead of just if you want to replace something for a better version. So that is where the BR is going to make a little bit of a difference. Not a huge one. This thing will still be effective at 6.7, 7.0, even if they put it at 6.0. If they put it anywhere in the tree below 6.7, it will still be as effective, because it basically has the heat FS shell. Even if they put it higher, it will be effective, because most tanks, apart from a very small amount, do not have armor which can withhold a 320mm heat FS shell. So it makes sense for me to put it around 6.7, being a tier 4. And also Germany doesn't have a 6-7 premium apart from the Tiger II SLA. So it kind of makes sense. It has a 6-3, it has a 5-7, so maybe put it at 6-0, and then you're talking about running it with a Stura Meal, Panther A, stuff like that. That could also work, but for me this is either something that you use in place of a Panther, or in place of a 105 Tiger II, depending on if you want a very quick tank, if it fits your playstyle basically. If you believe in maneuverability, if you try and move around the map, if you try and help your teammates, instead of being that stalwart tank which is going to sit there and try and soak up some shots while people shoot through you, then this is going to be your tank. If anything, it's always going to be effective, because that 90mm is a really, really good gun, especially with Heat FS, and it is going to be able to get around a lot. It's a nice choice for a premium. It's kind of sad I can't find a lot of information on it. I would like to know a little bit more about it, because when tanks like this get paraded around, they worry me. Because we may end up in a situation with something like an R2Y2, where you just have a completely fictitious plane which they can put any values on to suit them, to fit a BR. And I don't really want that. I do want this game to at least try and have some historical accuracy when it comes to how machines perform. But we'll see with this thing. Will it have a massive impact in the game? It may do, depends on its price. It's obviously going to be expensive, and it's coming up against the IS-6. Which is going to be the premium that everybody is running right now. And maybe this is the answer. Maybe all the Tiger II SLA drivers who get sick of getting battered by IS-6s, maybe this will be your answer if you want to shell out a bit from your wallet. But anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time.